For nearly 4,000 years, humanity forgot the people who invented civilization. They left no pyramids towering above the desert, no marble temples shining beneath the sun. Their cities dissolved back into the earth, becoming little more than anonymous mounds of dust. And yet every day of your life is shaped by their ideas. Every hour has 60 minutes. Every minute has 60 seconds. Every circle has 360 degrees. You did not choose those numbers. Neither did the Greeks, the Romans, or the modern world. Those numbers were chosen by a people who lived nearly 5,000 years ago, between two unpredictable rivers in what is now Iraq. They had almost no stone, no forests, no metal-rich mountains. They lived on a flat floodplain surrounded by marshes and desert. By every rule of geography, they should have struggled merely to survive. Instead, they created the world's first cities, the first writing, the first schools, the first recorded laws, the first empire. And perhaps most remarkably, they created a blueprint for society that still shapes our world today. This is the extraordinary story of the Sumerians, the civilization that invented the future, and then vanished so completely that the world forgot they had ever existed. To understand the Sumerians, we must first understand the land that created them. Southern Mesopotamia lay between two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Today, it sounds like an ideal location: water, fertile soil, and open land. But the reality was far harsher. The summers were brutally hot. Rain was scarce and unreliable. When storms finally arrived, they often came as violent floods that could destroy entire settlements. Unlike Egypt's Nile River, which flooded with predictable regularity, the Tigris and Euphrates were chaotic. They changed course. They overflowed without warning. They swallowed fields and villages alike. Life here was a constant struggle between drought and disaster. The memory of these floods became deeply embedded in Sumerian culture. They told stories of a great flood sent by the gods to destroy humanity. Only one man survived by building a boat and preserving life upon it. Thousands of years later, that story would echo through history in another famous flood narrative, the story of Noah. Yet beneath this dangerous landscape lay extraordinary potential. The rivers deposited rich layers of fertile silt across the plain. If water could somehow be controlled, the land could produce enormous harvests. Before the Sumerians arrived, earlier communities known today as the Ubaid culture had already begun building irrigation channels and farming villages. But they had not built cities. They had not invented writing. They had not created states. Then, sometime near the end of the 4th millennium BC, a mysterious people appeared. We still do not know where they came from. Their language, Sumerian, is unlike any other known language on Earth. Linguists classify it as a language isolate, meaning it has no known relatives. Even more intriguing, many of the names they used for rivers, cities, and farming activities were borrowed from earlier inhabitants. Someone had lived here before them. The Sumerians inherited the landscape, adopted what already existed, and then transformed everything. According to their own traditions, they came from a paradise called Dilmun, a place some scholars associate with modern Bahrain. Whether myth or memory, no one knows. What we do know is this. Once the Sumerians arrived, the history of humanity changed forever. The greatest Sumerian invention was not writing. It was organization. To survive in southern Mesopotamia, people could not simply farm as individuals. The rivers demanded something larger. Canals had to be dug across vast distances. Embankments had to be built. Waterways had to be dredged season after season. If maintenance stopped, fields would dry out or flood. Entire communities could disappear. Survival required cooperation on a scale humanity had never attempted before. Thousands of workers labored together to maintain immense irrigation networks, stretching across hundreds of square kilometers. Someone had to coordinate this effort. Someone had to manage labor, distribute resources, resolve disputes, and control the flow of water. From that necessity emerged a new kind of institution. At the center of every Sumerian city rose a massive step structure called a ziggurat. To modern eyes, it appears to be a temple, but it was much more than that. The ziggurat served as a religious center, warehouse, tax office, courthouse, and administrative headquarters all at once. Priests managed land, grain, labor schedules, and economic activity. They became the organizers of society itself. Around 3800 BC, something unprecedented happened. The village stopped being humanity's primary way of life. The city was born. The greatest of these cities was Uruk. At its peak, tens of thousands of people lived within its walls and surrounding districts. For most of human history, people had lived in small groups where everyone knew one another. Uruk shattered that pattern. For the first time, people regularly interacted with strangers on a massive scale. Old systems based on memory and personal relationships no longer worked. A city containing 50,000 people required something entirely new. It required records. At first, temple administrators used small clay tokens to track goods and labor. Each token represented a specific quantity. But as the economy expanded, the system became too complicated. Then came a revolutionary idea. Instead of storing the token itself, officials pressed its image into wet clay. The object became a symbol. The symbol became information. And from that simple transformation emerged one of the most powerful inventions in human history: writing. The first written records were not poems or stories. They were inventories, tax lists, wage records, grain accounts. Writing was born from administration, and with it, civilization entered an entirely new age. Writing did not remain a simple accounting tool for long. Over generations, the Sumerians transformed it into something far more powerful. The earliest symbols were simple pictures representing objects. A head meant a head, a bowl meant food, a foot meant walking. But eventually, scribes made a discovery that changed human communication forever. A symbol could represent not only an object, but also a sound. This breakthrough allowed people to record complete thoughts, abstract ideas, and complex stories. Using a reed stylus pressed into soft clay, Sumerian scribes created wedge-shaped marks that became known as cuneiform. What began in Sumer would eventually spread across the ancient Near East. Babylonians used it, Assyrians used it, Hittites used it. For more than 3,000 years, cuneiform remained one of humanity's dominant writing systems. And because clay survives where paper decays, much of their world still speaks to us today. More than 1 million cuneiform tablets have been recovered by archaeologists. Each tablet is a voice from a civilization that refused to disappear completely. But writing was only the beginning. The Sumerians also developed a mathematical system unlike any other. Instead of using a base 10 system like most modern societies, they counted in multiples of 60. It may sound strange today, yet that decision continues to shape modern life. 24 hours in a day, 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, 360 degrees in a circle. Every clock on Earth still carries the fingerprints of Sumerian mathematics. Their knowledge extended well beyond simple counting. They calculated areas and volumes. They solved advanced mathematical problems. They understood geometric relationships centuries before many later civilizations. At the same time, they transformed agriculture. The plow allowed farmers to cultivate larger fields with greater efficiency. Food production increased dramatically. More food meant more specialists. More specialists meant a more complex society. Then came another revolutionary invention: the wheel. At first, it was used for moving heavy loads. Later, it evolved into wheeled vehicles and chariots. Human labor could now be multiplied through engineering. The Sumerians also developed sailboats, transforming rivers into transportation routes and trade networks. Goods, ideas, and technologies began moving farther than ever before. They established some of the earliest known legal traditions. Centuries before Hammurabi, Sumerian rulers were recording laws governing property, inheritance, trade, and crime. Order no longer depended solely on memory or tradition. It could be written down and enforced. They also created something we often think of as modern: formal education. The first schools trained young scribes in reading, writing, mathematics, law, and administration. These students spent years mastering the difficult art of cuneiform. The classroom itself was a Sumerian innovation. And then there was beer. For the Sumerians, beer was not merely a drink. It was part of daily life. It provided nutrition, hydration, and social connection. So important was beer that they dedicated a goddess to it. Her name was Ninkasi. A hymn written in her honor contains what may be the oldest surviving beer recipe in human history. By now, a pattern was becoming clear. The Sumerians were not simply inventing tools. They were inventing systems. Systems that would outlive their civilization by thousands of years. The achievements of the Sumerians become even more remarkable when we look beyond their inventions and examine the people themselves. When disease struck, they responded in ways that feel surprisingly modern. Sumerian physicians carefully observed symptoms. They examined patients, recorded conditions, and prescribed treatments using herbs, oils, and medicinal mixtures. One of the world's oldest medical tablets survives from the city of Nippur. Written more than 4,000 years ago, it contains practical treatments and pharmaceutical instructions. This was medicine centuries before the famous physicians of Greece. Yet the Sumerians viewed illness through two different lenses. The physician treated the body. The spiritual specialist treated the unseen cause behind the illness. To them, physical and spiritual realities existed together. A patient might receive herbal medicine and ritual prayers at the same time. Far from being irrational, this reflected how they understood the universe. Their medical records became extraordinarily detailed. They cataloged hundreds of medicinal plants and organized knowledge systematically. But nowhere do we see the complexity of Sumerian society more clearly than in how they treated their dead. In the 1920s, archaeologists excavating the ancient city of Ur made one of the most astonishing discoveries in archaeological history. Beneath the ground lay a vast royal cemetery. Thousands of years after the civilization had vanished, its rulers were still waiting below the earth. Many graves were simple. Others were extraordinary. Large burial chambers contained treasures crafted from gold, silver, lapis lazuli, and precious stones. The level of artistry was breathtaking. Golden helmets, jewelry of incredible detail, musical instruments decorated with precious materials, evidence of a wealthy and sophisticated society. Yet the most shocking discovery was not the treasure. It was the people. Around some royal tombs lay rows of attendants, soldiers, servants, musicians, courtiers, all buried alongside their ruler. The most famous tomb belonged to a woman named Puabi. Her magnificent headdress remains one of the greatest masterpieces of ancient craftsmanship ever discovered. Around her burial chamber, members of her court rested in carefully arranged positions. For decades, scholars believed these attendants willingly followed their queen into the afterlife. more recent evidence suggests the reality may have been more complicated. Whatever the truth, the royal cemetery reveals something important. The civilization that invented schools, laws, mathematics, and administration was also a civilization of immense hierarchy and authority. Its accomplishments were extraordinary. Its world could also be unforgiving. And soon, that world would produce the first empire in human history. For centuries, the cities of Sumer competed against one another. Ur fought Uruk. Lagash challenged its neighbors. Alliances formed and dissolved. No city remained dominant for long. The Sumerians had created civilization, but they had not created unity. Then, a single man changed everything. His name was Sargon. According to later traditions, he began life as an abandoned child, set adrift in a reed basket upon the Euphrates River. Whether legend or history, the story captured the imagination of generations. As a young man, Sargon rose through the royal court of Kish. Then he seized power. But unlike previous rulers, Sargon did not stop at conquering a neighboring city. He envisioned something larger. Much larger. His armies swept across Mesopotamia. City after city fell beneath his authority. He defeated rival kings, expanded north and south, and eventually forged the first true empire in recorded history. For the first time, millions of people across vast territories were governed under a single political system. The age of empires had begun. Yet conquest alone could not hold such a diverse realm together. Sumerians and Akkadians spoke different languages. They worshipped different traditions and possessed different identities. Sargon understood that lasting unity required more than military force. It required culture, and for that task, he turned to his daughter. Her name was Enheduanna. Today she is recognized as the first known author in human history whose name survives. Thousands of years before Homer, thousands of years before Virgil, thousands of years before Shakespeare, Enheduanna wrote. She composed hymns, prayers, and literary works that united different peoples under a shared cultural framework. More importantly, she did something revolutionary. She wrote about herself, her fears, her suffering, her hopes, her devotion. For perhaps the first time in history, an individual voice emerged clearly from the ancient world. Every autobiography, memoir, diary, and personal reflection written since then traces part of its ancestry to Enheduanna. But even the greatest empire could not escape history's oldest pattern. Rise, expansion, decline, collapse. After Sargon's successors, environmental pressures intensified. Drought weakened agriculture. Political instability spread. New enemies emerged from surrounding regions. The Akkadian Empire slowly unraveled. A people known as the Gutians entered Mesopotamia and disrupted the systems that had sustained urban life for centuries. Canals deteriorated. Fields produced less food. Cities shrank. Yet Sumer was not finished. Leaders in the south restored order and launched a final revival. Under rulers such as Ur-Nammu, canals were repaired and monumental projects resumed. The great ziggurat of Ur rose above the plain as a symbol of renewal. Administrators once again filled clay tablets with records of trade, labor, and law. For a brief moment, Sumer shined once more. But the foundations were weakening. Generations of irrigation gradually increased salt levels in the soil. Harvests declined. Foreign powers pressed against the borders. Trade networks became unstable. Then came the final blow. In 2004 BC, the city of Ur fell to invading forces from Elam. The last great Sumerian kingdom collapsed. The Sumerians ceased to exist as an independent political people. Their cities survived, their writing survived, their ideas survived, but the people themselves faded into history. And then something remarkable happened. The world forgot them completely. Their cities, built from mud brick and clay, slowly dissolved back into the landscape. Generation after generation passed. Empires rose and fell. Yet nobody remembered the civilization that had started it all. Not for 1 century, not for 10 centuries, for nearly 4,000 years. Only in the 19th century did archaeologists begin uncovering buried tablets beneath the deserts of Iraq. Slowly, painstakingly, an entire civilization was reconstructed from its own records. The forgotten inventors of civilization had finally returned to human memory. Today, the Sumerians are gone. Their kings are dust. Their temples are ruins. Their language is silent. And yet their presence surrounds us every day. Every time we divide an hour into 60 minutes. Every time we record information in writing. Every time laws organize society. Every time students gather in a classroom. We are living inside a world they helped create. The Sumerians did not conquer the future through military power alone. They conquered it through ideas. And unlike empires, ideas can survive long after their creators disappear. If one aspect of Sumerian civilization surprised you the most, let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoy exploring the forgotten worlds of ancient history, be sure to subscribe and join us for the next journey into humanity's distant past. Until next time, thank you for watching.